I want to start with this, Secretary Pompeo, our senior counsel for global affairs. It's great to have you back on the broadcast. We learned yesterday, I think this is a great move. I remember tweeting it out, getting it out of my social media accounts, that Speaker McCarthy is following through and has removed Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff from the Intel Committee and Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. We've talked about how dangerous it was to have them on. Schiff, known for leaking documents when he was chair of the Intel Committee. Swalwell with the whole issue with Fang and Chinese spies. And then, of course, Ilhan Omar on the Foreign Affairs Committee with her anti-Israel statements and a lot of statements against other allies as well of the United States. But explain to people why this is the right move to get these individuals off, because, of course, they're all complaining and saying this is just politics.
Well, Jordan, thanks for having me on again today. A couple thoughts. First, Speaker McCarthy said he would do it, so it's very important that he followed through. I'm happy about that. As a substantive matter, each of these three have demonstrated their inability to actually do what it is members of Congress are supposed to do. I personally experienced Congressman Schiff when he was the head of the Intelligence Committee. I watched as he didn't take care of information the way he needed to. We all know the story with Swalwell. The Democrats kicked Republicans off because they didn't simply like their views. In this case, this is Speaker McCarthy protecting the institution from those who are trying to undermine it. I think it's absolutely most deserved that each of these will no longer be serving on what are two of the most important committees in all of the United States House of Representatives.
Hey, Mike, I wanted to follow up on that because I think people need to understand, because when the whole debate was going on for a week about Kevin McCarthy becoming the Speaker of the House, I'm glad that's been resolved and that he's the Speaker. There was a lot. I kept saying, understand these committees, Judiciary Committee, subcommittees, all these committees, nothing's happening while this goes on. So you served in Congress. How important are these committees to what Congress is supposed to constitutionally do?
They're at the very center of it. And you've worked with many of them, Jay, right, as the ACLJ, working alongside oversight committees across the full spectrum. The work of the Congress is done through committees and committee leadership and the committee staffs. They're the ones with the capacity to get documents. They're the ones that have the capacity to analyze and review them. The work that this Republican House of Representatives will do while we still don't have control of the Senate and President Biden is still in the White House will be driven by good committee leadership. And so not only making sure that we have good conservative people leading and chairing those committees, but making sure that you don't have someone who, was connected to China in ways that are unimaginable for an elected official, and someone like Adam Schiff who perpetrated the Russia hoax on America for 2 years, serving on a committee that gets to see classified information at a level that the other members of Congress don't get to see is perfectly appropriate.
You talked about China. We have new reporting, Secretary Pompeo, that lobbyists for TikTok, and there was a whole battle during the Trump administration as well, and they had to open up a U.S. subsidiary to even try and survive, but that now we know about their relationship with the Biden White House. They made 8 meetings with their lobbyist in just the past year. How concerning is that to you? I mean, I know they're trying to play to Biden, hey, don't get rid of this because it's good for you politically. But we've talked about the national security threat to this should really overcome whatever political benefit this might be for Democrats.
Boy, how many Americans would like to have 8 chances to speak with the most senior leadership of our country to talk about something that was actually good for our country? Instead, you've got folks with deep business interests, also solid ties to the Chinese Communist Party inside the White House, lobbying them, saying, nothing to see here, folks. This is all good, when we know the reality. We know the reality that Chinese-owned company is spying on our kids. They are pushing disinformation, propaganda to undermine our country through the very same telecommunications channel through their software. I hope the Biden administration will simply do the right thing. We weren't able to get that done in the Trump administration. I regret that. TikTok should not be accessible here in the United States. We should make sure that the military leadership, the intelligence leadership inside of China doesn't have that kind of access. And to watch their lobbyists go and lobby our elected officials, I try to imagine the converse. Some American company trying to lobby Chinese officials to put American software on the phones of ordinary Chinese citizens. It's laughable to even think about. We shouldn't let that happen here.
I want to. There's a lot of news the last 48 hours on documents at places they're probably not normally supposed to be, and that is it's now been reported that the Department of Justice is investigating that when the president was vice president, he had documents that were classified at his office that was in conjunction with University of Pennsylvania. That these documents, some of them were SCI, so very significant classifications, and involving, of all places, Ukraine, while there was investigations of his son involving Ukraine, and an impeachment, I might add, during that period of time. Ukraine, Iran, and then the UK. And the UK one is fascinating to me. I'm trying to get my head around that one. But what's your reaction to this? And, of course, I don't like this weaponization of the FBI that's turning document disputes into literally criminal cases. But, you can't go to one and then not the other. I mean, this is where I think it is out of control.
Boy, SCI documents, Jay, you know this,
Yep.
Jordan. They don't just wander around.
Nope. No.
They are. So there's some stuff that is classified at a lower level that, a little bit looser set of restrictions, inappropriately so. But SCI documents are closely monitored. Every document accounted for. How they wandered there, how they stayed there, why they were found. There's lots of questions that we just simply don't know the answer today. I said when there were classified documents found in Mar-a-Lago, they shouldn't have been there. Nobody gets to keep classified documents in a place they're not supposed to be. And the fact that they were there, and the president says he doesn't know how the heck they got there, we'll see what that story ultimately turns up. But the fact that they were there, and as you reported earlier, that institution has such deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party, it raises all kinds of questions about American security and how then former Vice President Biden was handling important documents that were aimed at being classified to keep America safe, yet set in a place that they had no business being.
It's interesting to me when President Biden made the statement about the documents. He said, "But I don't know what's in the documents." And this is what he said: "My lawyers have suggested I ask. My lawyers have not suggested I ask what documents they were." In other words, my lawyers didn't tell me to ask what documents were. Thus, he takes a negative and turns it into a command. I think the whole thing is outrageous. It really is. You're right. Classified documents should not be floating around.
It's crazy. By the way, if we were in that position and so somehow we'd made a mistake in those documents, we'd say, I want to know what the heck was in there and how it got there. We'd be working to solve the problem, not to say nothing to see here. And I'm ignorant and I want to remain so. It was a bizarre statement, kind of like when he says my team has told me I'm not allowed to take questions from the media. Right? Like, you're the president of the United States, for goodness sake. Get after this, fix it, solve this problem.
You're right.
Address the American people. Be transparent. It's not that hard.
All right, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it always. Secretary Pompeo, our senior counsel for global affairs.